so we came up with the we took the idea from the other Christian Klein of a masterclass series, because currently in our venue we can easily host around 50 people, and maybe in June that could be more, but I'm not sure. So we thought about, okay, let's keep it small, and we kind of like the idea, if it's small, don't call it an event, but call it a masterclass, which makes it suited for more things. And then we set out to create a couple of topics that were in line to each other. The whole series will be called something like industrialization of XR. And the 3 topics in that series will be XR in the digital workplace, XR in training, and XR on site. And what we wanted to do was to take one technology provider as a speaker, and from the business perspective on that same domain have a speaker as well. So let's say for XR in the digital workplace, I just had a really cool talk with someone from Deloitte, from the UK department. So they're doing internal research to how these virtual platforms or other kinds of XR technology can, be part of the future of work. And he wanted to, he had a few people in there who are willingly to do a talk in our virtual event on that day. And for the technology partner, I would want to ask someone from Oculus to do some talks. And with that same formatting, we want to address the other sessions as well. So for XR training, we could have a company who's doing something with VR or XR in training. There could be a company like KLM. And then from the technology perspective, that could be someone from HTC or HP, who are both, providers for high-end VR headsets. And then for the third party, we thought with the connections of Tim Hermans, Recreate, we could have someone from Microsoft telling somewhat about, the HoloLens and AR. And then we could have someone from, let's say, Enexis, because we know Recreate also, it's a mutual customer of ours. They already did some things with them. And I think they also were willing to do a talk about how they could see the use of AR in that field. And I think in that way, you can have 3 separate masterclasses with really interesting and also really broad perspective of speakers also from abroad as well, without the hassle of paying them to staying over for all the travel costs that are involved normally to get such, high-end speakers. And that's something we wanted to, address as a masterclass. It will be recorded and streamed live. So it would also be a really cool way to make a video montage afterwards for the future paid masterclasses that Christian proposed. We could, discover after this series.
Nice.
And I think that was in all the lines. The one thing what we do want to do is we have this document Christian is sharing right now. We do want it to have a, how do you say it? We don't want to wait too long doing a first announcement of this series of masterclasses. And what we wanted to do is maybe somewhere next week, we wanted to give out the first invitation on social media and whatnot to get people, fired up for this event. And I think in that first invitation, there's only a couple of things we need to be sure of. Are the 3 topics interesting enough? And is the date also correct? And then later on in a follow-up, invitation, we can actually announce the actual speakers, because we still are tuning in and finding the actual people and getting everything ready. But I don't think we should wait for that for this first invitation, because that's something that people can already now get in their agendas and then sign up for 1 or 3 of the topics.
But Bart, I do suggest that we make a landing page on our hub site so that people can always get back to the same URL for updates or new things. So the highlights must be good. And I think, that would be great. And you will share the first announcement, because we can all share it then in our network.
Yeah, because the thing we had, Let me see. I think there was a follow-up meeting. I'm not sure when it was right now. Maybe Christian and Mario, when we
Yeah, I'm looking.
But maybe it's idea, Bart, that we finish this text and then try to get agreements after this weekend, so that we can work on the invitation, the layout, and those kind of things.
Yeah, and talking about the invitation, Maurice said he didn't, but you had something, Christian, in here?
No, I think we have to reuse the one that you showed me, and it's also made by you and your team. So let's do that offline and see what's the best practical way.
Dat kan ik nu niet meer doen. Dan moet ik het laten. Als toetje wil ik het wel doen. Oh. Excuses.
Yeah, I was hearing something about dessert. Now I'm getting hungry.
Ik moest ook even schakelen. Ik denk,
very good. So Bart, what did you spin off all with your code? Now, I think that's good, Bart and Mario, Christian. It looks good. So maybe if you can wrap this up and after the weekend share it with everybody. If there's a landing page on the hub, then we can all share, like, comment the first invitation, or get everybody up to speed to block their agendas.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And who will make the landing page on the website? Because I think it's when you're referring to it, sending over the brochure, it has to be there.
Yes. So normally the content always has been placed by Maurice, but the brochure is good English. Last time was made by the virtual Dutchman, but for the brochure, I think
it's more when you're sending over to potential to customers or to other people, and you have your landing page in it. Then it's good that the landing page is there.
Yes.
So that's why my question: who is making the landing page on the website? Who is responsible for that? You don't know.
Maybe we've discussed it in a small committee, I think, because
I suggest you send it to Maurice, because he normally does the webpage things.
Yeah. We will contact him. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
And then Bart, the flyer we can reuse the one from the previous event.
Yeah, you want to use the flyer or the other thing, because that's something we did.
No, the flyer is the one that you did. Is we can also rebuild that one. I think it's not a problem.
What I suggest is, for the time being in this session, is that we have in our next session again 10 minutes for the event located, and then we can all comment and have inputs on the next phase. But let's first make the landing page and start sharing it. There's something coming up. Let's trigger everyone. Yes?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Then thank you. Are there any questions on that event at this moment? Not then I'm going.
Yeah,
back.
maybe it's also good. It's 8th, 9th, and 10th of June, I think. Write it down in your agenda so you don't have any other meetings. Don't wait for the.
It's in the afternoon. In the afternoon, is it? So
yes.
From 3 o'clock.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Then I'd like to give the microphone to Danny Plus. Danny, you can choose if you're doing it English or Dutch, but you're very, I thought you already said I can do it in English also. So
yeah, no problem. I hope. Yeah. All the terminology is already in English, right? So. And if you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt me. I think, well, as long as we can stick within the time limit, I'll try to keep it succinct. And if you feel better asking the questions in Dutch, that's fine with me. All right. let me see, because it's always a bit tricky with PowerPoint if I'm sharing the right screen. I think you should see the presentation now, right?
Yes, yes.
Good. So my name is Dani Plas. I am a associate lecturer, which is a fancy word for kind of like one of the main researchers at the research group Ambient Intelligence of Saxion. We very generically just build interactive systems, like intelligent systems. And my research line focuses more on the human computer interaction side of things. And that's where we are also very interested in XR technologies. This project that I'm going to present about, well, it's not a project that yet, but it's a project that we are developing. And it's going to be called something like Augmented Reality for SMEs. And it's together with the Lectorate of Human Capital. So they're very interested in what technology, for example, can do to improve human resources. And it's also together with the Apeldoorn's Techno Hub of Inclusive Technology. And their goal is to use technology to help people who have a distance to the labor markets.
Yes,
I hope I'm
yes.
translating this correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we bring all this together, like the technology side, the human resources side, and the inclusive side, that's pretty much where the idea for this project came from. So just to give a quick overview, I'll talk about a bit about AR for the manufacturing industry. It's probably going to be a bit preaching to the choir, so I'll do it very quickly. And I'll explain the goal of the project, the subsidy itself, and why you might want to participate, which of course I hope you do. So yeah, the main key applications that we see for augmented reality in the manufacturing industry are collaborating at a distance, also including like expert at a distance kind of applications. Obviously that the information is right there when and where you need it, and training opportunities as well. This gives it a couple of advantages, like reducing the skill gap. So these machines become ever more complex, so it's ever more difficult to get really proficient in them. And then yeah, if you have new people coming in, or maybe even very experienced people coming out, that presents a problem in terms of knowledge transfer. So yeah, the just-in-time information is a huge win in reducing also the doorlooptijd, the through
lead time.
Lead time, yeah. And having this information there also reduces errors significantly, and it provides a way to do on-the-job training. So even if you don't know how to do something yet, if the information and the instructions are there, you could do it anyway. And this increases the inclusivity as well, and also makes it possible to work more safely and more healthily. But for companies, obviously, there are a couple of risks involved in getting AR there. It's a huge step because it's, well, technology. There's also, especially depending on what type of hardware, for example, you go for, and also if you, for example, need a custom solution, there's the cost in that regard, but also the cost of implementation. So companies are a bit hesitant also because of simply not being familiar with what it can do for them. So our goal for this project is to think about, to answer the question really about how augmented reality can be applied in this manufacturing industry in SMEs to increase productivity and quality of work and learning. So we're really thinking about developing best practices in regards to the development of AR, the implementation of AR, and evaluation of it. So we can help both the SMEs to make the step, and also help developers, obviously, to help the SMEs and other customers to make that leap. The goal of the subsidy that we are aiming for, the subsidy is called Raak MKB. This is really a very specific HBO, so University of Applied Sciences type of subsidy. So I can imagine that you're not familiar with it. But the goal of it is to help SMEs innovate by making, for example, university type of research or other research accessible to SMEs. And we do that by, on the one hand, by just doing research ourselves, but also looking at the existing work and translating that into practice. The duration of this kind of project is 2 years, and it's a budget of 600K in total, of which 50% would be subsidized, but only 75K of the subsidy can go to outside of the applied university. So that means that it's really a type of subsidy where mostly we want to know what we can do for you. So why would you participate in such a situation? Well, we do provide this network, this consortium of the manufacturing industry SMEs who are already interested in doing something with AR, because otherwise they would not participate. AR companies and this Techno Hub of inclusive technologies, and of course the lectorates and the students that we work with. So we love to work also with through student projects. That's also how the students learn and how companies get in contact with students itself. Then obviously there's the sharing of knowledge and experience, which in my experience is almost one of the most important things, aside from the network that participants gain from doing these kinds of projects. And obviously one of the key goals of this particular project is that we hope that it will help you to better advise and coach your customers around the adoption and implementation of augmented reality. So what could you expect that we would ask of you if you would participate? It's mostly participating in consortium meetings, sharing knowledge, providing input for steering the project in the right way that is most beneficial for you, generally speaking, and then obviously also providing feedback on the deliverables. So the idea is that you ensure that what we do is what you need. And obviously in this situation for this project, it's also it could be very interesting to do a joint like a development project with one of these companies, where we would then, for example, also look into best practices and research the process and the effect of augmented reality in the situation of that particular company. But the details will need to be filled out together in forming this proposal. But yeah, just if there's any interest at all, we would love to hear about that, because we want to know if there's indeed a need here. And even if you think like, okay, I would only attend consortium meetings that would already show, for example, for the Raak MKB, would show them that there is interest, even if there's, for example, for other reasons, no ability to participate in any more thorough manner. So if you are interested in this, or if you have any questions, or perhaps know other potential partners, feel free to email me. Yeah, my email address is on screen. And I think it's also in the meeting invitation, so if you are looking for it afterwards.
Danny, it's an interesting project. It didn't start yet.
So I stopped sharing, right? Just
yeah.
So this is really this is a project that we are formulating right now. So Raak MKB is probably due around November. It depends a bit because the subsidy verstrekker, the institution providing the subsidy provider has recently been hacked, and that means that everything they do is delayed by at least 1.5 months. So we are not sure how that will go. But we aim for it to be kind of around November to have the proposal ready, and that means that we could probably start around March if we get it.
Yeah, and you need some inputs before you do the subsidiary, or when you start with the project.
Yeah,
you need input.
At the moment, we are looking for input and partners. So what is interesting for you that we could do, and would you be interested in participating in this or something like this? Because we, as a applied university, we do projects like this. That's kind of part of our job, right?
Yes.
And this particular project, I think, is very interesting because it is focused on the manufacturing industry, and it's AR, so it should be spot on here. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And maybe it's good for you in the upcoming year to have a new presentation in the upcoming steps you get. So now everybody is aware.
Mm-hmm.
A reminder in the upcoming year can be very good, because then you're a step further and everybody thinks, oh yeah, that is also good.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Lucas,
Yes. Yeah.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
I think it is interesting for a couple of partners of the Industrial Reality Hub.
Yeah.
So maybe it is wise to just add the Industrial Reality Hub as a partner to this project. It will give you more body when you do the application for the funding, and it also allows us to multiple partners of the hub involved on a later stage.
Yeah. Good idea.
That's one thing. And the second thing is, you mentioned AR. Does it have to be AR, or would XR be a broader description, also allowing VR to be involved?
That's one of the discussions that we currently are in. We have decided on VR so far to give it some focus. We have been discussing if we, for example, go for XR, that we perhaps provide more focus on the application side. So now it's really, it goes from working together at a distance to the training. If we would broaden it on the technology side, we would probably need to narrow it down on the application side. So that's indeed, it's an open question for now. So that's also a thing, like if people here are interested in participating, but they would only be interested in a particular line, I think that would be very interesting for us to know, because these decisions still have to be made.
Okay. Yeah, then let's do it after this meeting. Share where we can participate as a hub and how we can strengthen this line. So very good. Thank you very much. Then I'm going back to the agenda, and I think Tim is already waiting to present his thing. So Tim, you can
I am.
take over the screen.
Let me take it away.
Yes.
I'm sharing my slides now, and I'm seeing on my smartphone that you should be able to see my screen.
Yes.
What I'm willing to do, or want to do in the next 10 minutes or so, is answering a question coming up from Christian. And he asked me, okay, Tim, could you please give us an update about the topics that Recreate is currently focusing on? And we do a lot of work together with Microsoft. Also, like Bart explained at the beginning, our connections with them are really good. So I wanted to point out some of the areas where we are leveraging Microsoft technology at the moment to help our customers implement augmented, mixed, and virtual reality. So that's basically my goal for today. The same as for Danny. If you have any questions, type them in the chat box, or feel free to interrupt. No secret. So for the people who do not know me, I'm Tim Hammond, working for Recreate. Often call myself the chief storyteller within the organization. Not really a technical guy, but I can tell really good about how we can use and leverage the technology. Working since the end of 2019 for Recreate. Living in Veenendaal, a lot of hobbies. Most important thing to remember is that I'm a really big whiskey enthusiast. And recently I become a dad of a really nice son. So that was also the reason why I was a bit offline last week, Lucas. So that's the reason for that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
With that said, what we now see in the industry is that we, for the topic of augmented, mixed, and virtual reality, we see a lot of people who are enthusiastic about this, about the solutions in general. I don't know how other partners are seeing it at the moment, but sometimes it can be challenging to really start doing actual business with customers. It's often important to get them over the first hurdle. And really to start doing a project with this innovative solution. On the other hand, I always have the philosophy, think big, start small. Also to get people up to speed with the technology and also to let them experience it themselves. Prove that the technology is working and also work on a business case. And the areas where at the moment we see a lot of traction and where we also leverage Microsoft technology as an off-the-shelf product or as building blocks that we can use in our solutions that we deliver. We see a couple of areas where at the moment companies have interest in. We see a lot in the shared visualization space. Of course, nowadays almost everybody works with Teams. And we also see that Microsoft is now embedding Teams with 3D content. I have some slider on it later on, a new product from Microsoft called Microsoft Mesh. We also use the HoloLens a lot. I think personally it's a fantastic tool. Sometimes it can also be a bit too technically advanced for customers, that they are a bit scared of investing a lot in a piece of hardware. On the other hand, it gives you a lot of opportunity. Two use cases that we commonly see nowadays are training and task guidance and remote assistance or remote craftsmanship. Where we leverage HoloLens, smartphones and tablets to work together and help non-experienced persons to do more complex tasks themselves. And I don't know if everybody is aware of that, but there's also a big cloud environment of Microsoft called Microsoft Azure. And maybe a lot of people know them, is that, for example, all your Office suite is now running in the cloud. But since a couple of months, Microsoft is also investing heavily on mixed reality services that we can use from a cloud perspective, like Azure Remote Rendering, Azure Data, Azure Object Recognition, that we also can use AI and machine learning to make our apps smarter. That, for example, if the HoloLens sees something, that we can also combine it with business logic to also really act and do specific things in other systems that are active in the IT landscape of a customer. So based upon these combinations, you can imagine that a tool like remote assistance is a really easy tool to implement. The contextual data access is a bit more complex. Nevertheless, we have a lot of customers working with integrated BIM systems, trying to connect their 3D data with sales, for example. But these are typical areas where we make the difference. Like I said, from a value proposition from Microsoft, we basically see two axes. On one hand, we see the axis of standard products. These are some of the off-the-shelf Microsoft solutions that we deliver from a Recreate perspective. Maybe good to know is that we are also an official Microsoft mixed reality partner, meaning that we are also allowed to deliver hardware, but we are also allowed to deliver licenses for these products, like Remote Assist, like Microsoft Guides, like Product Visualize, and Microsoft Layout. And we really help customers with these topics nowadays. COVID is really a challenge. On the other hand, it's also helping us that companies now have an external reason to innovate. And solutions like Remote Assist and Guides are really helping customers who cannot travel and still want to do work remotely, like electronic factory acceptance test, site acceptance test, interactive user manuals. Of course, from a Recreate perspective, we also have our own solutions on this topic. But sometimes we need to start quick with a lower initial investment. And then these off-the-shelf products can, of course, be really interesting because it's buying a solution for buying hardware, buying a license, buying in some help from Recreate, and you get up to speed really fast. An example, if a customer, for example, today say, okay, I want to start with Remote Assist, I think we can have him up and running in the beginning of next week. So hardware, license, and services are available quite good nowadays. And that's also the reason why this can be a really good starting point for customers to get acquainted with augmented, mixed, and virtual reality.
Tim, why is the asterisk there with layout?
Yeah, it's you know, Microsoft is a big organization. It's not really sure if Microsoft layout will be on the price list in the upcoming months. I expect it will be depreciated.
Okay.
So I think in a couple of months you only have remote assist, guides, and product visualize as off-the-shelf products. Officially, layout is also in a beta version at the moment, and I think it will never go into a general availability status. But that's my personal feeling at the moment.
All right, thanks.
If we then look to the Azure Stack, like I said, off-the-shelf products are really cool and we can make the difference, but we also often see that the requirements of the customer are not always matching the functionality that the off-the-shelf products can deliver. And to make tailor-made solutions, we do not want to reinvent the wheel every time ourselves from a recreate perspective. I think in the AR, MR, and VR world in the Netherlands, we are quite a big player, but we cannot compete with Microsoft. And at the moment, there are a couple of Azure services that we can leverage in our solutions to make our products smarter. On the top part, you see the cognitive services. That's really to make applications smarter, like object recognition, real-time translation, knowledge base, the connection with AI. Really not only to visualize data, but also to do smart things with the things that, for example, in HoloLens can recognize. But the real cool stuff is that nowadays we also have some mixed reality services, which are dedicated Azure functionality to leverage from a mixed reality platform. At the moment, we have 3 solutions. One is the Azure to Digital Twin, where we really can make the connection to 3D models and IoT connections. We have spatial anchors, which are more or less a digital marker based upon a geolocation, for example, for navigation or for asset visualization. And the one that I personally really like is the Azure Remote Rendering. For people who have worked with the HoloLens know that there is a limitation on polygons that can be run smoothly on a HoloLens. So often when you receive a big 3D model from a customer, it needs to be optimized. With the Azure Remote Rendering, and this is also still in beta version, but all the conversations we have with Microsoft are promising, meaning that with the Azure Remote Rendering solution, the hardware is not a limitation anymore. So even though you have, for example, a BIM model of a really big building or a stadium that contains millions of polygons, you can render it in the cloud, and the outcome of the rendering will be visualized on the hardware, meaning that the HoloLens 3, 4, or 5 doesn't require that much power anymore. It simply relies on a good internet connection. And that's, of course, a really interesting principle that nowadays hardware often is the limitation of what we can visualize. I think if we have this conversation again in a couple of years, then hardware is not the limitation anymore. The thing that I always like, because this is a Microsoft slide, is the last column. It's the column of devices. Yeah, I think a lot of people know Microsoft for the HoloLens. Of course, they lost a lot of money on Nokia. I don't know if they're still making smartphones, but it remains on the list. So no clue why if a new model will pop up in the future. Hopefully not, but that's my personal preference. I know that Microsoft is also working together with HP on their own virtual reality headset. So Windows mixed reality and Windows virtual reality. It's a logical step. We have the Kinect camera, which is a separate camera. That's the Kinect sensor. That's also in the HoloLens. You can also use it to do standalone object recognition, for example. And the thing that I really don't know, and it's already on the slide for a couple of years, why the hell is there a drone on the Microsoft slide deck? I have no clue if they have any interest in making a drone themselves. Of course, mixed reality, point clouds, drone capture is a logical next step. I have no clue why. So that's a question I keep asking to them, and they never gave me a satisfied answer. So hopefully I can share more about it in the future. Last thing I would like to explain about this is a tool that's been released, I think 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, there was a really big online event of Microsoft Ignite. And we see that for this slide deck, you see that Microsoft Mesh is a new collaboration tool. It's a collaboration tool to work together. At the moment, it only works with the HoloLens, where multiple users can join a virtual lobby. And as you can see, I'm here doing a conversation with one of my colleagues, Jeroen, where I'm standing in my workroom at home. He's standing at home, and I still can see his avatar. And we also have a table in front of us where we can share 3D content. You can see there's a standard library. You also have the option to add a couple of, in this occasion, items in it. And you can also really check the 3D items together with all the persons, make annotations and discuss it. So I expect in the future that this product will become bigger, integration with Teams, integration with PowerPoints, really creating a integrated collaboration tool. Right now it only works with the HoloLens, but Microsoft also already discussed integration with Altspace VR, integrations with tablets. So it can be a really interesting tool for the future.
Oh, this is interesting. They promised this with HoloLens 1. And finally, it's there.
Yeah, so I already tried it. I saw I posted in a picture of a wrong slide deck of a customer where I actually had a meeting with them in using Microsoft Mesh. They're also having their own HoloLenses, and we were really able of discussing 3D content we are making for them. So that was really interesting. So it really opens a lot of options. And I think nowadays with COVID and not traveling, it's of course really interesting that these functionalities are there. And like you said, Christian, it's a promise they made a long time ago. And I think now together with the HoloLens 2, the whole cloud transition, the adoption of Microsoft Teams, I really think it can be a huge game changer.
Nice.
So this is just the Microsoft stack. Of course, we do a lot more, but you can already see it's almost a day task to keep up with all the things that Microsoft is doing from a mixed reality perspective. So it's good that a lot of things are happening at the moment. So that's it from my side. Any questions?
It's a very clear presentation, Tim. Thank you very much, and interesting to follow. And if there are no questions, you can always call Tim or send him an email. But then I want to switch to Sylvie, who has also made a presentation, and will share the TNO slide deck.
Yes, thank you very much for the transition. Very interesting presentation, and I think it links pretty well with what I'm going to present. So it's the first time that I take part of this industrial hub meeting, and I find it really interesting. I'm Sylvie. I'm working at TNO as a scientist, and I'm going to present to you a small, well, it's not small, it's a sort of collaboration we made in the past few months. So before diving into the topic, I would like to introduce you a bit the context of our development. As you know, TNO is known for working on applied science and applied solutions, creating a connection between people and knowledge. And since we started with the pandemic back in March 2020, in the Netherlands at least, we noticed that there was a rapid increase of casualty in a particular sector of people, the old people living in nursing homes. You can see here some snippets of news from the Dutch news. And the casualties were not only related to the complication of the virus, but also and mainly by its byproduct, I would say. It's like the loneliness combined with the strict sanitary measures makes the contact with old people rather impossible and cumbersome. And these people require quite some physical need of touch, the hug, seeing the person in a close, and that's really important for elderly people. So we have identified this need, and by identifying it, we can definitely tackle it as well, because that's what we do at TNO. We try to identify the challenges, but also help the society by bringing forward an applied science and now. So what we can see nowadays is that there are some practical and easy solutions that are currently available. And these are often providing a quick fix to the lack of physical visits. But often what they involve is a different infrastructure, like you can see a plexiglass room, or even a cabin that you have to move from one position to the other. And let's think about it. The solutions are made for now, but involving a particular type of person. These are often older people, fragile people, or with great distress when the routine is broken. So some of these patients, they suffer dementia or physical limitation, and moving those patients from the comfort of the nursing home is simply too much. It's too much of an effort. So these solutions also, you can clearly see they're not very scalable and deployable. Not only you have to build this special facility, but also you have to construct, on site or it's very special. And therefore you would need a scheduling system. It's quite cumbersome. So instead, we propose an XR-based solution. And this has been built together with Meander. So the elderly are not as visited as much as they want. Now, it is very known, and it was also before the pandemic. It's due to insufficient time before because of the balancing between managing work and family and visiting the elderly, which are often located far away from the relatives. So the XR solutions, they offer a unique capability to safely visit each other. You can create a whole different level of togetherness. And this is actually the essence of XR, and that's why we want to bring it forward instead of having a Skype call or a Teams call. It's actually a solution. You create a better connection between the family, and you improve the loneliness and therefore actually the mental health of these patients. And as I said before, if you have elderly people, you have of course strong requirements on health, comfort, and safety. So as such, within TNO, we're in a bigger picture where we're studying social XR. And social XR is actually a big topic, which we tackle in several ways. We tackle it as a whole end-to-end chain, coming from capture, processing, transmission, rendering, 3D user representation. So we also invest different modalities like audio, video, touch. So in this framework, we came across a particular collaboration with Meander, where we decided to go with AR instead of VR, for instance, because we managed to identify the niche and the need of those people. So if you think about it, we don't want the older people to feel disoriented. So having goggles on their head is quite difficult, right? Because already you can think the average age of people at the nursing homes are about 80 years old. So it's rather old. And these people don't interact as much as we do with technology on a daily basis. So for instance, swiping with a phone, that's already too much for them. So our solution provides a very easy way of deploying a system that is in a familiar environment, and you can still communicate it with your familiar faces seamlessly. So in that way, the applied science, we put it there. We really connect knowledge with people. And I'm going to show you a small movie that is showing a bit the essence of our system.
Je bent net opa en oma, maar je kleinkind zit in het buitenland. TNO heeft er iets op gevonden. We zijn allemaal met elkaar verbonden. Of je elkaar nou net kent.
Hola, mi amor.
Of al je hele leven.
Opa!
Ook al ben je ver weg. Via de XR-technologie van TNO ben je nu dichterbij dan ooit. Kijk door de ogen van TNO en zie het voor je.
Oops, sorry. Oh. Yes. So this study was done in the middle of COVID last year when there was the lockdown. So one of the limitations we faced because of COVID pandemic was the lack of having a broad panel of people to try. So we actually investigated the things with 10 pairs of participants, and the pair of participants consisting of one resident, who was between 80 and 95 years old, and one family member who will be about between 47 and 68 years old. And this pair, we tried to define the needs. So first we needed to define what do they need in terms of communication. We first, of course, to introduce their needs, we also introduced a bit the systems. And before asking them what they need, we showed them what an AR system is, so that they could have a bit more grasp. There are other systems than just Skype. And so by asking that, we have also to evaluate the user experience. So we needed to have, for instance, the perceived enjoyment, the spatial presence, the social presence, the attitude, the behavior, or the conversation durations. And for these evaluation, we needed to find also a system, because of course you cannot ask these people a rating between 0 and 1 or 0 and 5 or whatever, because it's kind of difficult already to grasp what their enjoyment is and what do they need. So here's a picture where we actually assessed their needs thanks to smileys. It was quite a nice study. It's a really different way of assessing the user experience. And at the end of that user study, we declared, virtual visits are really needed. And so it's quite interesting. They were really willing to take part of this study. I'm going to show you briefly the system that we have developed within TNO. It's a rather simple system. The resident was sitting in front of an iPad, and the resident was also recorded with a Logitech webcam that was attached on the top of the iPad. And the family member was displayed on the iPad. It was supported with the AR placement and rendering of a 3D volumetric object. So the iPad was mounted vertically on a stand, positioned in between the resident chair and an empty couch to create the AR environment. And on the other side, the family member, he was seated, so here you can see the granddaughter, seated in front of a 43-inch TV, which the resident was displayed on, and while being registered by a color-plus depth RGBD camera, the Azure Kinect that was previously presented. And it was positioned in front of the TV so you can have a direct eye contact. So these two computers were used to connect to the devices on both sides via internet. So it was all local area network, and Microsoft Teams was used to deliver the video image of the resident as well as the audio signal in both directions. So again, this system was all done on premises. It was all done on local area networks. So just as I told you briefly, because I don't have much time, we made an extensive way of measuring and evaluating the experience of the user experience. And the evaluation was based on several UX indicators like enjoyment, spatial presence, social presence. And we asked the residents and the family member, the caretakers, to grade their experience with several types of questionnaires that I list in this slide. So we recorded actually one of the example that I wanted to show in terms of results is that the duration of each session with a maximum of 20 minutes per session was significantly higher with the AR tool that we have compared to the normal conferencing tool. But what was also quite interesting is that the residents, they were not consciously experiencing the difference between video-based or AR-based. They were really focused on meeting with their family. And this was really noticeable because the family members, they perceived marginally higher spatial presence, and the message understanding was greater in the AR condition. So for us, it's really a confirmation that AR plays an important role in the way we communicate with people. So all in all, I just want to say that this system is a first on its own, and we have also plans, of course, because this is not the end. We have, for instance, thinking of larger display screens or AR glasses, also having the remoteness of it being studied and being actually deployed, because now everybody was on premises, and we want to have it a bit more, tested at different locations. And now we do a one-to-one communication between a resident and a family member, but we want to maybe have families together, so people from different locations put all in the same system. So that was it with my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed the system. And again, my name is Sylvie Dijkstra, and you can always join me. You can look at what we do for social XR work, and of course, we do a lot of European projects, so feel free to join us as well.
Sylvie, also very interesting presentation, and I'm also interested what's the next step in this, because you did a pilot or you did some searching. What will be the next step?
The next step is actually to assess what the needs of these user is in a more depth, and then to create a tailor-made solution that is really connecting people at a higher level. So in terms of user representation, we're going to go to a higher quality point cloud, for instance, on a larger display to really have the seamless connection, to have the AR aspect. And also, of course, when I talk about multiple user, we need to have this remoteness being investigated. And that's something that is involving low latency, higher throughputs. You know, this is all the aspects we need to take into account.
Wow. Very interesting. As well as have some questions, but I'm also looking at the time, because every month I think 1 hour, is it enough time for all interesting subjects? But I think it's good you have also your contact details here in the session, so if people want to have more information, they can contact you. Thank you, and I will give the last words to Christian to have some closing remarks, or maybe ask around for or announcement for the next meeting.
Thank you, Lucas. Next meeting will be on May 20, not on the second Thursday, because that is a holiday for many people. So 20th of May. And the topic will be hardware. So right now we have listed Bart Koch, who will tell us something about the Oculus Quest 2. We have Tin Hermans, who will explain us the ins and outs of the HoloLens 2. And Omar Niamut will present, or will have a colleague presenting something on Looking Glass. Maybe that will be you, Sylvie. And
I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, that's currently the hardware that we have present on the list. So if there's anybody with a special device or who has some experience with hardware, sensors, parts, or that I have not listed yet, please tell me, because the more the better.
Yes.
And that's all that I have to say. So thank you for attending the meeting. I just counted up that we have 18 people visiting, so that's quite nice. And it means that what we are presenting is meaningful for you. So if there are other topics that you want to discuss, let me know. And that also includes if you have business proposals to do. So if you have some business going on in your company or some research topic that you want to share or that you need knowledge, you think other people can provide that knowledge, please, these sessions are also a very good place to tell that.
Yes. Okay.
Up to you,
everybody.
Lucas.
Everybody and Christian, thank you for joining. The recordings will be placed on the site from the Industrial Reality Hub. Maurice will do it, and then I will close the meeting again and see you next month. So thank you all and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.